Hello and welcome again to another episode of Waypoint, the Airmed&Rescue podcast. I'm Oliver Cuenca, Junior Editor here at Airmed&Rescue, and today I'll be talking to Konrad Matyja, Coordinating Director of LPR, the Polish Medical Air Rescue Service. Thank you for joining me today, Konrad.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Glad to have you. So, just to begin, I thought it would be good to just get to know you a bit better, let our audience know you better. So tell me first, how did you end up working in air ambulances?
Okay, the story is kind of long. I wanted to be a pilot when I was 3 years old, and that stayed somewhere inside. When I was an adult, I wanted to be a doctor. So I finished my studies at Medical University in Warsaw. And I tried to be a gynecologist because I like the fast actions, the quick decisions to make, and a similar way of acting. But it was pretty difficult at the time to become a gynecologist in Poland. Not many places to start this specialization. And I discovered emergency medicine, which became my hobby, a love of my life in a way. After I finished specialization, I figured that I would like to collide those two things together and stay within the aviation and still do what I like doing. So I applied. Finally, I got the chance to start working, and it's already been, I guess, 17 years already here.
Wow. So you're quite a veteran at LPR then?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. I didn't notice when it happened.
So was there anybody in your family that sort of came from this sort of background? Was there something that you sort of said, I want to go into medicine, I want to get involved in that sort of thing?
My father was gynecologist, and actually, I was listening to those stories from the delivery room about quick acting, and I was impressed by that. And this is, I think, how I ended up here.
Yeah. So he's a bit of an inspiration then, in a way, I suppose. So LPR as an organization, well, firstly, tell me about your role within it as coordinating doctor. Is that for the whole organization? What does that involve?
Well, we have a clinical governance department. It's a pretty new department in the company. Pretty new. I mean, we started this in 2017. And we figured that we need to start implementing modern medical knowledge, all updates in our everyday clinical practice. And it would be probably the best way to obtain this would be have a centralized clinical governance department, and then get some news, get some clinical stuff from people around the world, from people from our company. We got in contact with other HEMS providers. And so we were discussing their ideas, their problems, their solutions to problems. And, every year we got more and more things, more and more observations. And we were coming up with SOPs, with new equipment, with new ways of solving problems that were not being solved for years in Poland. And this is how it started, and it's going and growing and growing.
So when you say you've been in touch with other air ambulances around the world, are there any that spring to mind that you remember particularly?
Yeah, we did have and still have cooperation with Norwegian HEMS, NOLAS, and with Hungarian HEMS. We joined meetings of Euphoria organized by our friends from Scandinavia. We met also people from Great Britain over there. And it was a very, very fruitful idea because we got a lot of new ideas. It came out that we sometimes have the same problems. We have to face the same issues. So, in a situation when one of us already has some kind of idea how to solve this problem, it's a little bit easier for others to try to solve the problem similar way.
Yeah, well, more minds together, really, isn't it? So you say that the department was established in 2017. How did it work before then? Was it more? Was every base sort of independent of each other?
No. We had the standardized approach since I'm working here. So every base was basically the same. I mean, fixed wing base was different, but fixed wings are just different than HEMS. But there was a medical doctor, there was one coordinating doctor, and they were kind of, taking care of everything. For some time, we had a medical board, we called it this way. It consisted of doctors from every base. But, we were meeting once a year and discussing. So the meetings were not so fruitful, when so many people talk at the same time, you don't get clear ideas. So we needed to have a smaller group, just gain ideas from people, summarize them, and check the latest research and find solutions. This is a lot more efficient. So it's we see the growing of this, the development is pretty nice right now.
Fantastic to hear. You mentioned new equipment, new techniques, things like that. Are there any particular ones that you're particularly pleased with that have been introduced recently?
Yeah, first we started with the chest compression devices, which allowed us to fill the gap during HEMS missions. After takeoff, before landing, there's this moment when it's not possible to give good quality chest compressions. So this device filled the gap. It also allowed us to transport patients with cardiac arrest for specialized procedures like hypothermia treatment. So this was the first thing. Then we introduced the ultrasound to our practice. First in a few bases, and then we went further. So now all our crews are equipped with ultrasound. And also we train with this. We have a few courses per year with more and more ideas. The latest course is pretty nice because it's made especially for us. So we don't do ultrasound like a radiologist in hospital. We do it the same way as we sit in the helicopter, with a difficult approach, being behind the head of a patient on his left side. So everything is like in helicopter, but very different from what we see in hospitals. And then we went into doing more and more surgical procedures with the idea of moving, let's say, hospital closer to the scene. We noticed that certain patients will not reach the hospital if certain procedures will not be performed. So we started with finger thoracostomies. We got some data to support that this is way more efficient than just putting a needle in chest. We trained everybody in the company. Then we went further. We made our own method to do crick. We don't use a special equipment. We just do scalpel bougie and finger method. It's really efficient, and we see that the efforts paid off. Then we went more in escharotomies, and we see that some of the burnt patients have a real visible benefit after doing that on the scene. And we started to train in emergency hysterotomy, which is the most difficult subject, both from the mental perspective and from the perspective of getting on the scene two patients at the same time, both in a very critical stage. And one of them is usually an infant that is born in cardiac arrest, and is usually preterm. So we made a lot of courses of preterm NLS procedures. And then we went into courses of doing hysterotomy. So far, our crews performed if you summarize, we can have a number of 5. We're getting more and more into it. Some research is started, so we see where it's going to go. And the last thing that we are discussing now is whether to start training our crews for open thoracotomy in certain cases. We did visit facilities in England that are experienced in doing this. We did visit facilities in the US. So we have some data now collected to go further. And another thing that we think about is introducing blood products in our
I was going to ask about that. I just talking to one of your colleagues a few years ago, and I remember you didn't have blood products at the time on board, but it was something you were pushing for. Yeah,
I think we are getting closer and closer to this. But we had to face the legal regulations that are not allowing us to do this. So it will take some time, but we see that there's a will to cooperate within the government and blood banks. So I believe within a year, maybe 2, we should be ready to start introducing this in Polish HEMS.
Oh, fantastic. That's really great to hear. Would you be like focusing on specific areas that we'd roll that out first? Hypothetically, obviously, still early stages.
Well, probably that's just trauma patients. And we would firstly, we didn't talk about how to do it exactly, but we would think about certain HEMS spaces in Poland that have a large number of trauma patients in a critical condition. And this would be really a good idea to start over there and then to spread it all over the country. That's the idea.
Makes sense. We're thinking bases in more urban areas or something like that.
Yeah. One of the bases we have is in the intersection of two big highways. They fly a lot of missions to severe trauma patients. When I look at their medical records, it's different than other records in the country. So I believe we would start from them.
Yeah, makes sense. A lot of road accidents and such like. So LPR is obviously state-run, publicly owned organization under the Ministry of Health, etc.
Exactly.
In other parts of the world, you'll have, sort of, say, here in the UK, a lot of our ambulances are charity-run. I was talking to Cornwall Air Ambulance earlier this series about how they operate. What are the benefits and maybe the sort of limitations of being a state-run air ambulance?
Well, I would say there are a lot more benefits than limitations with this. The benefit is on beginning of the year, we got our funding promise. So we know we can still run the company the way it's supposed to be run. And that's a huge benefit. So we don't have to worry that foundations that collect money for us 1 year don't have enough money and we have to make cuts somewhere. Because in this service that is very expensive, we have to face the facts. So you either do it 100%, so the money is well spent, or you start to cut. And if you cut, you make the service not as efficient and not as good, and it stops being worth the money. So I'm happy we can count on full government support with this, because that means that we can plan. We can plan training, we can plan all aviation things connected to HEMS missions, which are also costly. And we can plan training for our crews, we can plan equipment, maintaining equipment or getting new one. That's the benefit. I don't personally see any limitations with this. In any case, however it is funded, I think we should think about making it optimal. So, not going too far, but still reaching the constant and high level of care.
Makes sense. And, well, I noticed that one thing that LPR did fairly recently, which I think you do a fair bit of, is first aid training with various people, such as the elderly, for example. I saw one in a press release. Do you do a lot of that?
I can't say how you define a lot. Our medical training center does things like this. Of course, their priority is the medical training of our crews, so that's for sure. But if we can give a benefit to the society, we always try to do it. We see when we fly that it's important that people are educated, because if not for the first responders, sometimes the work is not possible to be successful. So, however we can help, we always try to do this. And this is why those courses come into play with the elderly or big companies in Poland. Yeah, most of our workers do similar stuff privately. If we can help, we do this.
I suppose from your perspective, it really does help to have people actually know what to do in an emergency,
Yeah, like people wait for us, and when we arrive, we have already a good start, and this is for us very important.
So obviously LPR traces its roots back to the mid-50s, but in its current form, you're celebrating, I think, your 25th anniversary?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Did you do anything fun for that? Anything to commemorate?
Yeah, we did. Well, the beginning, it was kind of rooted in a few places in Poland. There were mostly fixed-wing aircraft did the service. Some helicopters then arrived. And then in the year of 2000, on the
Yeah.
3rd of March, which is a special date because it's my birthday. We had like an official startup of LPR. A lot changed since that time, and yeah, we had a huge celebration. We had a celebration with plenty of visitors, with people who used to work in our company and are retired now. My colleagues made a really beautiful movie about the history with a lot of interviews. It's really nice.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
we had a banquet so everybody can meet and discuss. And then a friend of ours organized an unofficial banquet also, which was absolutely fantastic. We were happy to see each other because, that's a big company. So there are people who you talk to on the phone, but you never meet them actually. So it was a nice chance to gather together, to talk a lot, to see faces that you have never seen. I have super memories after that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And looking forward, it's probably a great chance to sort of, you're already kind of doing that, as we already talked about, sort of like look at where the organization is and think about where it's going. Is there any particular place that you think LPR will be in another 25 years?
It's really hard to tell. I would assume and would hope that we will go same direction and just, on a constant slope going up. That's my idea. I think it will go this way. I don't see any reasons why not. We go further with medical training, with procedures. We try to follow the newest medical devices to serve people better. We try to train HEMS crews and fixed wing crews because we have a fixed wing base that I'm also a part of, which does a lot of difficult transports, and we transport neonates, preterm neonates, people in all conditions. We transfer ECMO with the support of ECMO unit people. So it's a lot to work on, but I see it's going the way that makes me happy to see.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that's pretty much everything I personally had, question wise. But is there any particular thing that you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched on?
Well, I see that we have a big public role, not only training of first aid, but mostly we like to be sometimes on TV to talk about the real problems, talk about the behavior that we would like to be witnessing. We encourage people to be safe in water, to be safe on the road, to keep your kids always buckled up in child seats, which a few years ago was not so popular, but we see it's really going better and better.
Yeah.
Not to speed, not to drive drunk. So, small steps, but going further and further. So I see there's always a gap to fill in the society, which we feel responsible just a little bit.
Yeah. So the child seat thing, you said that was not popular some years ago. Did a law pass or something like that to make people?
The law is already many years, but especially in the rural regions. I used to fly a helicopter there, and you could see plenty of cases when parents were untouched, not hurt at all, and the child just got exploded through the front window because it was not anyhow supported in the child seat. Now I'm happy we don't see it often lately, but we still sometimes do, and it's a role every time me or my colleagues speak on national TV. We try to sneak information like that, to just not only speak about the things that our reporter asks, but say, okay, please remember, keep your children in child seats, fasten up, don't speed up, be safe. We want you to be safe. We will come to rescue, but we want you to be safe. That's most important. And maybe it's getting better. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Well, hope so. It's incredibly important, as you say. And, it's all fantastic that you're there to come and help people. But
exactly.
But anyway, thank you so much for coming to join us on the show. I think it's been fantastic to talk to you, and I hope to keep in touch, and maybe we can talk about some articles or something in the future.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to talk to you. Very nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to any further meetings or any other cooperation. And greeting to everybody around the world.
And that's it for another episode of Waypoint. Thank you for joining us today, Konrad. It's been great chatting. And thank you to all of you for listening. We are nothing without you, our audience. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, and to check out the Airmed&Rescue website for more great content. Until then, safe flying.